on down the broken road. I call on you to help me carry the load. Oh Lord, you never let me down.
Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Hello and welcome to the Broken Road Project. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today I'm joined by my friend, Hether Flanagan. How you doing today, Hether?
I'm great.
So I ran into Hether while I was looking for inspirational people on the internet to talk to and hopefully share experiences with, and ultimately hopefully have a conversation here in person. So here we are today. Got you here finally. I know you've been patiently waiting.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
When did we first talk, do you think?
I think early December.
Yeah. So it was a little bit, but you know, we're going. 2026 is shaping up to be a really cool year.
It is, for sure.
And,
a good
I
year.
know.
I think it's going to be a great year.
Oh, I love that. See, that's what I love. That's one of the things I love about you.
Yeah.
So I could probably say a whole lot of things. You've had a really interesting life, and we're going to dig into that. But can you tell us just kind of who is Hether Flanagan in a nutshell?
Yeah. My name's Hether Flanagan, and I was born in California but grew up in Houston, and I'm a wife and a mom. I'm an insurance agent. I'm a stroke survivor, a massive stroke survivor. And I don't know. That's pretty much, I mean, there's a lot more to me, just like all of us, but that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. So you had a stroke, obviously.
Yes, a massive stroke caused by birth control pill.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because I really think that that's something that people need to know.
Yeah, it's important to know.
So before the stroke, I read your book, and I'm going to go ahead and point that out if you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Hether wrote this book.
Oh, an author. I should have included that in my author. I'm also an author.
I read this book. It's great. It tells a lot about Hether and her journey to today and through the stroke, her life before that. And I really, honestly, you know, when you say world's most interesting man, you know, the guy from what is it, Dos Equis?
Yeah.
I think you may be the most interesting woman. You have a lot of really cool things in that book. I don't know. It's pretty neat.
Lots of reinventions throughout my lifetime, for sure.
Yeah. So I know one thing is you're kind of you say that you were a cardio queen.
Yes. Yeah, I worked out a lot.
Yeah.
And I was always doing cardio because when I gain weight, I tend to gain it in the lower body. And so I didn't want to get like a bigger lower body. So I was always doing cardio, like rowing, walking, HIIT training, sprints, things like that.
Right.
Yeah. To try to get my heart rate up to burn fat.
Well, it's cool you did HIIT training because I actually did some of that myself.
Yeah, I love HIIT training.
Post-stroke, and it actually helped me with mental clarity as well. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned that maybe on the first episode of this year that was one of the things I was really appreciative that they kind of went out of the comfort zone. They're like, hey, we'll do this with you even though you have a clot in your heart and all that. But still to this day.
There's so much research that exercise is so good for the brain.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just, I think we just posted the other day that I forget what the percentage is, but there's 27%, I think, reduction in a second stroke just from walking 30 minutes every day. You know? And I know you do a lot more than that, but it is important. So we're going to get to that a little further down the line, but I really kind of want to start with what led us here today. And I got it in my notes basically to ask and talk to you about the stroke itself.
Yeah.
So I guess starting maybe just kind of draw us a picture for that time of year that it was and kind of the events leading up to the actual event.
Well, what I can remember, and I've pieced together from my own recollection and then also what people have told me. But it was the night of February 28th. In the hospital records, it'll say March 1st because it was after midnight. But in my memory, I always think of it as the night of February 28th, 2021. Mm-hmm. And it was a normal day. It was a Sunday. And I was a sales trainer at the time. I've been in the insurance business since 2007, but have done various things in the insurance business over that 2 decades. And so at the time of the stroke, I was working as a sales trainer for a company in Austin, and I was working from home. But the next day, on March 1st, I was going to be having my largest training class to date. I was having 60 new agents starting that next day. So I was really kind of in planning mode that Sunday on February 28th, and really just trying to get all my stuff together, because I knew that that week was going to be a big week. Because my job as the sales trainer was to train all the new agents in their first week after being hired with the company.
Wow.
So I was doing everything from sales training to just training them in general about the company and about Medicare. They were Medicare sales agents. So I was spending the day really getting ready for my week, and I really planned to get to bed early that night. I worked out on my rower, and as I did every day back then, and I was just wanting to go to bed early, and so I ate dinner, had a relaxing Sunday evening, got in bed by 9 o'clock, and so that I could be up the next morning and ready to go for my big week.
Right.
And I woke up at like 2:45 a.m. because I had to use the bathroom, and I was so irritated when I woke up. But I went to the bathroom, and because I was like, oh, this is interrupting my sleep. But I went to the bathroom, and then when I was coming back to the bed, my heart was racing. And I was like, what is happening? And I've never even had a rash, never had the flu, never had any health issue whatsoever. I was super, super healthy and super particular, and I still am, with everything that I put in my mouth. And so when I woke up to go to the bathroom and I came back to the bed, my heart was racing, and I was sweating just at the kind of top of my hairline. And so I was like, what is happening? And so my first thought was, am I going through menopause? I was 47 years old at the time. But I'm like, is this a menopausal symptom? I didn't know what was happening, but I woke up my husband, Randy, and I was like, something is wrong with me. My heart is racing and I'm sweating. It was also freezing because it was 10 days after that big freeze we had in Texas.
I thought we had talked about it
Yeah.
during the ice apocalypse. You
Yeah,
know,
it was
people
it was
from
literally, it
Texas,
was when
a
the power
lot.
outage went. Yeah, and everyone was mad at the governor, and we had like no power for 80 hours or
Well,
something.
there's people from up
Just 10
north
days
that I
prior.
know. People from up north that I know, they're like, it wasn't that bad. I was like, well, yeah, just like you don't have an air conditioner, so when it gets hot,
Yeah.
it gets awful there.
It
We're
was
like,
bad,
"Oh,
just simply because of the power outage. I mean, the weather you can tolerate if you're sheltered, but having no power, where you can't have heat, you can't have coffee, you can't take a shower, you can't cook meals, it was awful.
Yeah.
And this was 10 days after that. So the fact that I was sweating and my heart was racing when you're like the epitome of health, like I am and was very weird. So I was scared. And so I woke Randy up, and it's 3 a.m. by this point, because I had gone to 2:45, 2:50 a.m. And I woke him and I said, something is wrong. I think I need medical attention. Well, he later told me that I was slurring my words and that I came in the bed sideways. That is not my recollection at all. I remember speaking perfectly clear. I'm needing medical attention. And I remember us having a total logical, normal conversation. Like, he's like, okay, well, I'll go get you a sweatshirt because I'm in my pajamas. And he leaves the room to go to the closet to get me something to put on so we can go to the hospital. Because his first response was, I will get you there faster than if we sit here and wait on an ambulance. So because we live in Salado, which is about 20 to 30 minutes away from the closest hospital, he thought he could get me there faster. So he goes to the closet, gets me a sweatshirt, and I'm just laying in the bed stressing out about work the next day, thinking, oh my God, my boss, he was a bit micromanagey. I'm like, I'm going to be so fired if I'm not on time and like buttoned up and ready to go on Zoom at 8 a.m. and I'm not getting any sleep, and this is awful, and what is not even thinking I could possibly be dying. I'm just like, I'm going to lose my job. And so he comes back. All of a sudden, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom again. So I run back to the bathroom. And at that point, I felt sick to my stomach that second time. So I thought I was having diarrhea, and I didn't want to have diarrhea in my pajama pants. So I literally ran. And at that point, I was totally fine. My whole body working just like normal, ran back to the toilet, and I go back to the bathroom. Well, then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. Randy told me that he heard a noise like as if I had bumped the toilet. So he came in to check on me. And he said when he came in to check on me in the toilet area of our bathroom, he said I was leaning to the left against the wall and I was totally white. Like, he's like, you were so pale. He's like, I knew in that moment something was very, very wrong.
What a scary moment.
Yeah, it was
that
very
had to have
scary,
been.
yeah.
Yep.
And I don't remember any of that. I don't remember him coming to check on me, any of that. He just told me that's what he did. So he apparently helped me up. We go out to the garage to get to his truck. And as soon as we step into the garage, he said I collapsed. So apparently, I guess I had the stroke already at that point. We don't really know. But we get to the garage and I collapse, and that's when he calls 911 because he's like, okay, something is really wrong with her. Mm-hmm. The fact that, because I was very athletic and worked out a lot and very domineering and very independent. And so the fact that I collapsed and I'm tall, he knew, like, oh my God, this is not Heather. Something is very, very wrong. So at that point, he immediately called 911. And I do have a faint memory of that moment of being on the garage floor, and I was freezing because it was, the night of February 20th, and very cold. Mm-hmm. And so I think he went in to get me a blanket. And I just remember being like, thinking that I'm dying at that point. At that point, I started feeling more weird. Mm-hmm. Not just like stomach upset like I had felt the moment he went to go get the sweatshirt. And the heart was no longer racing. The heart rate had calmed down. But I just felt, overall, I felt very weird in my body. But I didn't know what was happening to me.
Right. Almost a stranger to yourself,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was very, very weird because I was still kind of in a groggy state from being in the middle of the night. But in my mind, I just kept stressing about work. I kept thinking, I got to get up in the morning and be ready for work, and I have to be on. When you're training agents on Zoom, you have to, especially on Zoom, you have to be ready to go and present yourself. So I just kept thinking about that, but feeling like I was dying. My body felt like it had never felt before. I just felt very, very lethargic and very, very weird. Mm-hmm. Is the only way I know how to describe it.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
and then I remember the ambulance beeping and backing up in the driveway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an intense moment right there, and I appreciate you sharing that.
For sure.
Usually for everybody that's around you more than you, it's intense to be in that moment, but it's hard to describe it. It's almost the best way I can describe it when I'm trying to is it's almost like being in this dreamlike state.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. It's almost like you're outside of your own body. Like you don't know. I just kept saying, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. Like I didn't know what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're unable to really move properly. Just the whole thing is.
Yes.
So when you got in there, obviously at that, there's a lot of loss that happens in there. But from what you've been told and what you know now, what procedures did they have to do? What exactly happened?
Okay, so when I got, I don't even remember getting in the ambulance. I don't remember them loading me up. I don't remember any of after being on the garage floor and hearing the ambulance backing up in our driveway. I have no memory in my mind, and I have thought about it and tried to recall, but I have no memory. I just remember waking up in the hospital and the beeping of all the machines. But what I have learned later is that they came out, so they raced me to the emergency room in Temple, to the Baylor Scott, which is a level 1 stroke center, thank God. Mm-hmm. We just happened to be lucky enough to have that that was the closest hospital. So that's where the ambulance took me. And Randy followed the ambulance in history. He went and got my son Luke and woke him, and then they got in the truck and followed the ambulance and got to the hospital right around the exact same time that the ambulance got me there. So Randy told Luke to wait in the truck, and he goes in. And what Randy has told me is that he was waiting there, and then a doctor came out and told him, your wife has had a massive stroke. And he, at that moment, was like, what? We didn't know what stroke was. He's like, what? We thought it was something that happened only to old people.
Yeah, you were in great health.
I was in great health, yeah. But he said, and the clot, it's a blood clot. And so it was an ischemic stroke, is what they told him. And he said the clot is so big, we can't do TPA, and we can't do a thrombectomy to go in and retrieve the clot because that would cause more damage. And he was like, and even further than that, it was a female doctor. And she said, and beyond that, it's causing such an immense amount of swelling in her brain, we're going to have to remove her skull. And so at that point, Randy said he just started crying because he's never heard anything. He's like, what? He can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So the doctor put her hand on his shoulder, and he said that's all he knew at that point, is that they were going to remove my skull flap, which is called a craniectomy, not a craniotomy. They're very different. Craniotomy is where they just drill a hole and drain in, which I later learned. Craniectomy, they actually took the bone out of the head to allow the brain to swell so that I could live, because if your brain pushes into the skull, you could die.
Right.
So they did that to alleviate pressure. And then I was in the hospital for 16 days, in the ICU for 8 days, and in that hospital for 16 days. And they put the bone in a freezer in the hospital. And when I was in the hospital, I just was annoyed the whole time and kept thinking about that I needed to go back to work.
That says a lot about your personality.
Yeah,
that part doesn't typically go away. You may not be able to express it, but the part of you that makes you tick
that makes me.
is
I'm
still
very
in
driven.
there.
I'm a go-getter for sure, like annoyingly so, and kind of one of those annoying, always on the go. And I was definitely that way before. Fierce, I've been called a ball buster. I'm definitely all of those things. And so in my mind, I was so annoyed I would hear the nurses changing shifts, and it just annoyed me because they were constantly talking about what they did or what they did the night before. It was just all the chatter and all the beeping of the noise. And so I was heavily drugged, obviously, because they had my skull flap removed, and there were things, and all the little sticky things all over my body were itching me. I was just totally annoyed and wanted to go back home. That's all I kept thinking about. I need to go back home and go back to work. I had no idea at that point. People said you have a stroke, but I didn't really know what a stroke is. So just in my mind, I just was like, I'm going to get up and walk out of this hospital as soon as they let me. That's literally what I thought.
Right.
Our thinking, I think, and what I've learned now about the brain, our thinking and how we perceive ourselves is so much our reality. And I really think that because I am that way and kind of like naive in that sense, and such a domineering kind of ball buster kind of person, that's the only reason I've made the recovery that I've made, because I have that belief about myself and that confidence. Because I had no idea that I couldn't walk. I had no idea that I couldn't do anything on the left. I didn't learn that until several weeks later, probably 5 weeks later.
Right.
That I was completely paralyzed on the left side. I couldn't even sit up or swallow. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even realize I was on a feeding tube, but the thing they had on my nose was really itching me and irritating. Yeah, it was really irritating me, and everything irritated me. I just wanted to get out of there.
I'm right there with you. There's a lot of jokes when I go back, because I do volunteer in the same rehab facility. Now, CICU was a little different for me. There, I kind of floated through that time. I don't remember a whole lot of that. Part of my recovery, but once I did get to the inpatient rehab, it's an ongoing joke about me up there because I was an awful patient. Yeah. I was so irritable. They'd come in, wake me up. I'm like, shouldn't I be resting or something, people? Would you leave me alone for a minute?
Right.
And they wouldn't. So I was definitely irritable, and I get that 100%.
Yeah. I think I wasn't. I was so, but in my own mind, like I wasn't outwardly. I'm pretty sweet.
I was outwardly.
Yes, I'm pretty sweet by nature. My outer personality is very sweet and tender and loving. But in my mind, I was so freaking annoyed. And if I would have said what was on my mind, then they probably would have thought I was outwardly rude. Yeah. But I kept it in my mind. I just thought, I'm going to get out of here and go back to work. I'll be fine.
So, all that being said, and knowing that you had a ferocity about you, a go-getter, and usually used to being in control of the situation.
Yes, that's been a hard thing.
Yeah, so that was kind of you kind of led into it perfectly. So you had mentioned to me that it cracked you open.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you mentioned that in the book or not,
I
but
did.
for sure
yes.
when we discussed it as well. I guess... Can you kind of describe that part of that, the change in your personality and what that did to,
Yeah, well, and it didn't really change my personality because I definitely still have that I'm a fighter and I fight. But before the stroke, so much of my identity, really my entire life, when I was a kid, I was on an all-boys soccer team. My dad raised me primarily, and I think he raised me like a boy. When I was under 12, he pushed me in a lot of sports, and so I have a real kind of, my mom always says, you're just like a guy, because I have a very male kind, as in like the professional world and in my working way, the way that I am is very, what some people would consider like male dominant, because I was very dominant. Mm-hmm. I was a very independent, dominant female, kind of an alpha female for sure. And so when I talk about how it cracked me open, that wasn't until I got home, which I was in 3 different places, 2 different hospitals and a 3rd facility before I even got home. But once I got home and I wasn't the same as I had been before, and I was in a wheelchair and in a helmet, I was talking, we didn't know any mental health counselors because I had never needed that or done that before. But Randy and I had gone to some marriage counseling once before. So he was like, well, maybe you should just talk to Amanda, she's an amazing she's an amazing counselor, but I needed to talk to someone for my mental health, because that was when it first dawned on me, like, okay, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm stuck here in this house all day. And I was in diapers because the stroke left me completely paralyzed on the left and incontinent, where I had to learn how to sit up, how to swallow, everything all over again. And so when I first got home, 2.5 months after the stroke, I got home May 14th or May 8th. No, May 8th. It was May 8th of 21. So the stroke happened March 1st, and I didn't get home until May 8th. And I had been in therapy in Encompass rehab in Round Rock for 5 weeks. And then and I kept wanting to go home, but they sent me to a third facility called Neuro Restorative, which I wrote about in the book. And it was great therapy, but it was an awful place. It's licensed as an assisted living, and I just wanted to get the hell out of there the whole time. I was like, this is awful. So when they sent me to Neuro Restorative, first of all, I was very pissed off that I wasn't being sent home. I even told Randy, I would never leave you in a place like this. You got to get me out of here. So I was only there for 3 weeks because I was so determined to get home. Technically, in retrospect, I probably should have stayed there longer to get more therapy, and I probably would have been further along by the time I probably would have at least been out of the wheelchair when I got home if I had stayed there longer, but
If
I
I
was
could
only
interject there, that's something that I being a volunteer now, everybody wants to get home. I mean,
Yes.
and I understand that feeling, but I usually try to tell people, I'm like, hey, you're in the best place you can
Yeah,
be
you
right
need
now.
to stay a little longer and get as much therapy, milk that therapy.
Because
for
the reality hits when you get home. And
Yes.
that's usually what I tell them. Like, you don't have anybody necessarily. What you don't realize when you're in that
Right,
that
when you're in the
space is
bubble of
how
the-
much you're being
how much
taken
help,
care of.
yes,
and
for
how much
sure.
help you have. And then you get home and realize how much help you really need. And,
Yeah.
then that's all put on your caregiver.
It was a huge
so
burden.
I'm sure Randy had a lot to learn really
Poor
quick.
Randy.
and he
Yeah,
did-
that's why I say Randy's a saint, because he always has been a really good guy. I mean, I wouldn't have married him if he wasn't. He's always been a gentleman and took care of me, and and tried the best. When we fought so much before the stroke, because I couldn't let anybody take care of me. I was so independent.
I can
But he's
only
always
imagine.
been a very gentleman, a very very inclined to care for me. But it was a huge burden on him, and I was so demanding of one, and I put a lot of guilt on him unknowingly and unmeaning to do that, not meaning at all to do that. But when I was hating that facility so much, that I was like, I would never leave you here. You need to get me home. And he did, being the good husband that he is, he did what his wife wanted, and he was like, okay, well, we can get you home then. But neither of us knowing what we were stepping into, because
Right.
here I was coming home in a wheelchair, and I didn't even, the skull flap was still in the freezer in the hospital. I hadn't even put that put back in yet. So here he is bringing me home, and the facility, of course, was kind of worried about it, but they're like, well, we can't force you to stay here, so if you want to go home, okay. And I remember the rehab doctor came out and talked to me, and she's like, you want to go home, you can go home. But no one sat down and explained, which I think that they probably should have said, you know what, Heather, stroke is this. Because I would have, if I had understood, if someone had said, stroke is a brain injury and you're going to need years of therapy, if someone had said that to me, I think I would have been like, oh, okay. But no one educated us.
No, and that's why another thing I do say is definitely that not all treatments created equal, so to
Right.
speak. So like it really, I think we were discussing it earlier, where you go and where you go
Yes,
through
you
the
definitely need
rehabilitation
neuro
process.
rehab.
It needs to be, for neurology or neurological recovery. That's
Yes.
huge. Any
So
other
huge.
facility is probably not going to hit on the things they do. Also, typically the staff that are used to dealing with neuro specifically understand what you're going through a little more than just like a regular rehab would, or
For sure.
inpatient rehabilitation. It would be for like a hip replacement or knee replacement, something
Right.
like that, which a lot of those facilities have their place. But when it comes to neuro, it's just a whole nother animal, and they know that your brain is trying to heal itself.
Yes.
First of all, the things that it takes to heal it.
And there's so many facets to it. I mean, it's not only physical therapy, not only occupational therapy. It's not only your physical recovery. There's so much mental, because stroke is a brain injury and affects people's mental health. And so it needs to be a multifaceted approach, which is what a neuro facility would do. They're going to look at the whole patient, and this is an adult human that needs to return to their life. So let's cover everything.
Yeah, and I don't think they would. Now they can't hold you there, beyond
Right.
your will. But I think that they would be able to explain a little better, in a way that would be understandable. Heather.
Yes, you need
we
more
really-
therapy. I mean, no
yeah.
one told Randy or I that. To my knowledge, I don't think they told Randy that either.
Give us a couple more weeks and let's see
Yeah.
what we can do, because it's amazing just what in a proper facility.
Right.
With a
like I said, I could have even
educated
been
staff.
maybe progressed out of the wheelchair at least and sent home walking. I mean, I was able to walk short distances with a Hemi walker, but nowhere near what I can do today.
Right. I think it's a testament to your perseverance, and the push that you put on yourself to where you do. That can be a good and bad thing. I try to tell people, that if you push too hard at the same time, your brain can only
brain
do so
doesn't like
much.
that.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just not like a muscle. I say it a lot, and because it was told that to me that way, it's not a muscle necessarily that you can push past the limit and say, okay, well, we're going to recover tomorrow, with a couple things.
Right.
Like if you push too far with your brain, it just takes a while. It takes time.
It takes time to rebuild those pathways, for sure.
Because I had deficits that would come, I thought once you recovered to a certain point that you didn't go back. And I don't believe that you necessarily go back, but there are certain things that your brain just says, okay, well, I'm tired.
Right.
We're going to take care of your major things, your heart, your lungs, all
stroke
of
is an
those
ongoing
things.
up and down journey, and you can recover huge amounts and then be doing things 1 year and then the next year or even the next month maybe have a little regression. It's very much backwards and forwards.
Yeah, it's not a steady
It's not a
scale.
linear,
That's right. No, it's a lot of these,
yeah.
which as far as mental health goes, that's a hard thing to.
That's the hardest part of it. You have to have that grit. You really have to
really
keep
do.
with it, because when you're having those moments of regressing, that's when you have to really fight through. I tell people I fight my brain every day. Before the stroke, I used to fight everybody else, but now I just fight my own brain, because it's very easy to get discouraged when something's not working the way you want it to, and it's very easy to just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this," or "I'm going to quit." But I will never quit. I still am making progress, even almost 5 years later.
I love that. Yeah, that's cool. I think that's one thing that, other than the fact that it's good for me too to be able to talk to others, and obviously you as well.
Yeah, no, you
it's
can't ever quit, because your brain is always going to learn and adapt. Every time you do anything new, your brain is going to adapt.
I think that's something unique to the stroke community as well. Most of the people that actually get out and that you're going to see, they are fighters.
Yeah.
It's just built in a different way, because
Right.
this is not a easy thing necessarily to
No,
overcome.
it's the fight of your life. I tell
that's
people
right.
when new stroke survivors reach out to me on Instagram and they say, "How do you do that? How did you get back to driving? How do you do CrossFit? How do you do these things?" I'm like, well, first of all, because I never believed I couldn't, I just do it, because our brain will adapt to anything you want to do. And when you have this kind of crazy belief in yourself, like I have, you can do anything.
Right.
And it's really, that was instilled in me when I was a kid. My dad was very much that way. He always used to tell me, you can do anything you set your mind to. You can have anything you want. You're just going to have to pay for it. Whether you pay for it with money or with hard work, you can do it, whatever you want to do. And I've always lived my life that way, but that has been instrumental in my recovery, for sure, just having that mindset, because it's really all about what we believe. When you believe in yourself, you can do anything.
No, absolutely. I think that's stroke or not. That's just a good way to live your life.
Yes,
right? I mean,
for
you
sure.
really, as my friend Luke would say, you find a direction, or let the Spirit lead you in that direction, and set your sail.
Yeah.
And roll with it. I mean, just
Right.
go.
Life is meant to be lived. You're not meant to just sit around and wither away. You want to live your life. That's the whole purpose, is to live it to the fullest. Do everything you want to do, because you only get one shot.
Yeah,
if you're lucky, you only get one shot to do everything you want to do.
And for our listeners that have not experienced or do not have a loved one that's experienced a stroke or any kind of neurological trauma, I don't think they realize the pain that's kind of associated with it as well, because you do push through that.
Right, you push through a lot of things.
When you see that hand bound up, or the walking, the cadence isn't
Right.
straight, it's not only because your nerves and things are holding it back. That spasticity is not comfortable either.
No, yeah. People don't really, stroke is a brain injury, and what happens, and every stroke is different, which that used to really frustrate me, but it's true because every brain is different, and our brain is like a fingerprint. And in my case, the stroke I had was pretty much covered all of the right hemisphere of my brain, but it encompasses a lot in the motor cortex, which is involved with motor movements and that neuromuscular connection, because our brain controls every movement that we make.
Right.
So a lot of people don't realize that, but your brain is communicating with your muscles all the time. And when you have brain damage or from a stroke or a brain injury, that connection from the muscle, from the brain to the muscle, can be damaged. And that's why there's tone and spasticity and tightness, and anything can change that. If you don't sleep well, you may have more tightness the next day. If you're tired, if it's cold, if you're on your menstrual cycle, or just any little thing can change that tone and spasticity. And people don't realize that stroke survivors fight that every day. And I think every stroke survivor, even if they didn't have a stroke in the motor cortex, they still deal with that neuromuscular connection, because it really, the brain really controls everything we do.
Yeah, and I think that's I did. I think a lot of people do. I'm sure you did too. Just took a lightly as far as how much that controls every single
and it's changed over time. I mean, I'm approaching the 5th anniversary of this, and it's changed over the time. The first 2 years, my whole left side was very, very paralyzed, very, very flaccid and loose, and my arm would just hang, and I had subluxation, which is where the arm is coming out of your socket, of the shoulder socket. I had that really bad, like more than an inch, to where they would use tape to put my arm back in the socket. And I had to learn how to shrug my shoulders again. So I had no control and really no feeling on the left side of my body. It was very, very, very bad. For the first 2.5 years, I couldn't move my arm at all, from the shoulder all the way down, even the scapula and the back which controls so much of the arm. I had regained a lot of walking because I just never knew that I couldn't walk. And so I would walk with the therapist in therapy using a hemi walker, and then I graduated to a quad cane. And so the leg and the feeling in the leg comes back a little sooner because we're weight bearing through it.
And you mentioned that
so
in the book as well.
I did mention that. So I was walking pretty well. I mean, I started doing CrossFit 18 months after this happened to me, because I saw something on Instagram about exercise, and I loved to exercise so much before the stroke. So I was like, I gotta get back. It made me feel more normal. So I started working with a trainer, and CrossFit is just functional exercises. And so a lot of people are like, CrossFit, how do you do CrossFit? I'm like, it's so simple. It's just functional exercise. I mean, getting up and sitting down and standing up is part of CrossFit. Yeah, bending over to pick something up off the floor, that's CrossFit.
Well, and so many people that do survive stroke, there is an age gap in there. I think it's very indiscriminatory as far as like what ages get affected.
Right.
I've known people that were as young as 18 and younger, even younger than that. I mean, we had Nathan on here. He was 15 when he had his.
Yeah. There's babies who have stroke in utero. I mean, that's what causes cerebral palsy.
Exactly. And all the way up until the later years in life. But the movement, a lot of people give up that movement, and mobility is huge. Like stroke or not, I keep saying that just because a lot of things we're talking about, I think people should be doing these things anyways.
I do too.
I was trying to do that pre-stroke. It's even more important to me now, and constant movement, even on the days when I really don't want to. I mean, there's
even when you
days
don't want
wake
to,
up
you
and
have
you're
to do it for sure. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't ever really want to do it, but I just say I've got to do it because I love it, and I love how I feel after I do it.
That's
so
right.
I just push myself.
Well, and they've shown
Movement
that
is medicine.
neuroplasticity. That's right, and they've shown that neuroplasticity is activated by your heart rate and getting that up, and HIIT training, things like that, actually activates that. So,
and for your mental health, which I wrote about too. I mean, if you can do that for yourself, I don't take any medication. I refuse medication. And I think that CrossFit and working with my trainer and going to the gym and doing those things, walking as much as I walk, and exercise in general, everything that I can do exercise wise keeps me mentally better. Not only physically, it's improving me physically, it's mentally doing so much.
Okay, we had to take a little break real quick. We're back. You had mentioned being cracked open.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to that real quick.
Yes.
And talk about that and mention that Amanda was part of that, and there was a process there.
Yes.
So
So how I came to know Amanda is that when I came home after being in 3 different facilities, that's when I realized I needed a mental health counselor. I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, but I hadn't talked with anyone in the mental health field. Mm-hmm. And I needed some counseling. Because I got home and I was not the same Heather that left in the ambulance that night. You know, I was in a wheelchair with a helmet on, and our 2 boys that were still at home were in high school, and so Randy went back to work and the kids were at school, and then here I was stuck in our beautiful home by myself in a wheelchair and a diaper and a helmet, whereas I used to be the one who ran the show. And so right. it really upset me. And I would cry a lot, and I never cried. I remember specifically there was one Sunday morning, Luke came out, Randy was cooking breakfast, and Luke, my son, came out into the living room, and I was sitting there in the wheelchair, just parked with the brakes on. You know, they just kind of, there's Heather, just leave her over there, and he's over in the kitchen cooking breakfast. And Luke came out, and I just started crying, and he had never seen me cry. He was 15 years old. He'd never seen me cry.
Wow.
Because I never cried before the show. I was very, very, not hard, but definitely had a lot of walls up.
Right.
So that's where I came up with that term.
Saw that as a sign of weakness, which is,
that's kind of, yeah, like I told you, my mom would always say, I'm like, you're like a guy. Because I don't like shopping. It's like a waste of time. I'm like, let's get in there and buy it and leave. Like, I'm like a guy. Like, literally, I'm very girly and obviously don't look at all like a guy. But in my thinking and in my demeanor, I was very much male, kind of dominant. Like, just, I don't like BS or, drama. And I never, ever cried. So I never showed vulnerability, ever. If I was upset about something, I just handled it.
And how did that change?
And so when Luke came out and saw me crying, he looked at me, he's like, why is she crying? And I just crying. And he literally had never seen me cry. And I don't even know why I was crying. It's just like it would just come and I would just be crying. And so when they all went back to work and school, I think it was even later that week, I started visiting by phone with a marriage counselor that we had seen, because we didn't know any mental health counselors. But we had seen a marriage counselor named Amanda who was amazing and really helped us in our marriage prior to the stroke. Mm-hmm. So Randy reached out to Amanda and told her, listen, Heather's had a massive stroke and we just need some counseling. Even though you're a marriage and family counselor, can you counsel her? And Amanda agreed to, because she loved us and she was very sweet with us. And so she agreed to counsel me by phone, because Randy had to be at work, so I couldn't get to her to see her in person. And we would just talk on the phone. And I remember one of the first times in talking to her, she was asking me some questions and I just was crying on the phone. I couldn't. And I remember beating myself up so much, because before the stroke, I was always very composed and very like Miss Perfect. Mm-hmm. And here I was, a blubbering, couldn't even talk. And I told her, when she just kind of let me pause and let me and I said, I just feel like the stroke cracked me open. It's like, I feel so raw, and I just feel I couldn't even talk without crying, mm-hmm. which I later learned is a common effect from brain injury. Much. Yeah. So there was even like a year later, I would continue where I couldn't even talk without crying. And Randy would always say, if you're going to be an author and you're going to talk, you better learn how to talk without crying. I'm like, it'll come.
Well, that's why I have that tissue yeah, right
no,
there.
And I now can talk without crying. My eye is always watering, but I have, actually that has improved. And I'm much more composed than I was back in like 2021 and 2022, back in the early months and year mm-hmm. after the stroke. But that's where that term cracked open came from, because I felt like in that moment that the stroke just cracked all that tough exterior that Heather was before the stroke was just gone. And here I was, this like vulnerable, kind of open, very raw. Like now I have no bandwidth or brain power to put on all of the airs that I put on before. Like before I was always Miss Perfect. Every time I walked into her, I was perfectly dressed, not an eyebrow out of place, just always perfect. And obviously now I have a lot of mobility differences and I'm not Miss Perfect anymore. So that's where that came from, that cracked me open.
Well, I love that. And I think that's a legitimate thing too. I experienced the same thing. Yeah. I try to look at it more like a blessing now.
It is. I think it is. That's why I named my book the way I did, because it's a superpower to be vulnerable and for us to learn how to be vulnerable. And I'm accepted so much more by everyone in the world. I think before, people would, probably see me when I would walk into a room, every head would turn and people would either get out of my way or just stare at me. And it's a very cold and isolating way to be when you're that way. I mean, I was always in heels and always, perfectly dressed. And people didn't approach me and people didn't love on me. And so I was very alone all the time. And now, and that's why I titled the book the way I did, because vulnerability, people now, I mean, when I walk in to go to therapy, I drive myself and people are like, oh, what is that you're wearing on your ankle? I'm pointing out my ankle foot orthotic. Or people just love on me so much, which is why I titled my book, because vulnerability is a power. It makes you more human.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of opens your eyes up to there's a world out there past your own living, you know,
Your
and
own
that
stuff.
that people are struggling too. I just didn't realize how much was around me.
I did,
going on.
yes. Yeah, it was
very
more about
bound and
myself.
determined, and I think we were very lacking that way. Just professionally goal oriented, and
Yes.
this is, you know, these are the things that we do, and we do them in this order.
Yes.
To get things done. And you need to keep up. I mean, that was my thing forever. It's just
yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
just keep up because I got things to do.
Yeah, like Randy
and
jokes
it
from a
was-
movie says, if you're not first, you're last. And now I'm like, well, I'll be last. That's fine. I'll be last, and I still think of myself as first.
Yeah, and I think that the way you put that as it being isolating, I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah,
but
I was
really
so
there
alone all the time. And
I was surrounded by people, but
Yes.
the actual connections, which I just talked about on a couple of episodes back, about the connections that we make and how important
Yes.
those are, that
So
I just
much.
didn't have time for before. So
Same. I connect so much more deeply now with everyone I meet, and I have more friends, and I have more people that reach out to me and stuff like that that I ever had before. I was so alone before the stroke, and I think people were intimidated by me. As a matter of fact, I can remember in jobs, I had management pull me over at times and be like, you need to stop talking, because people are intimidated by everything. Because I was a top salesperson, and I was, you know, real go-getter and always just Miss Perfect. And people were intimidated by me, and that's not a healthy way to be. So in many ways, I feel the stroke is a blessing, and being more vulnerable and being able to be flawed and still be loved is such a powerful thing.
it is.
It's biblical in so many ways.
Well, I'm glad you just brought that up, because that was another question I kind of had here. You know, were you? Yeah, I know you're a woman of faith.
Yes.
We've had that discussion. Do you feel like you were there before the stroke, and then how has the stroke itself changed that?
Yeah, well, I've always had a really strong faith. I used to even say before the stroke that God has his arms wrapped around me. He's got me through everything in my life. And I literally have always felt that way. I've been through a lot in my life. And God has always carried me through. So I feel like I have always had, my mom used to say, angels around me. I've always had a very strong faith. And that confidence that I have comes from that as well. Like, I believe that when I was a child, I grew up with that. My parents always telling me that I was a gift and a blessing from the angels. And that's why I introed the book that way, talking about my mom's pregnancy, because I really wasn't even supposed to be born.
Right.
So my faith, I've always had a really strong faith. And I know God has me here for a reason. I'm a normal human, so I've gone through times where I've been mad at God. Like, why do I have to go through this? Like, why do I have to be the strong one? Because they say that it only happens to the strongest people, and I believe that,
Right.
especially when you have your skull removed. I mean, that's only going to happen to someone who's super strong, and to make the recovery that I've made, it's only going to.
Absolutely.
So I've gone through my times where I've been mad at God, and I question, why are we doing this? Why are you? But I know He's getting me through it, and He always is with me. And my faith and my devotionals, I feel like God talks to me through my devotionals, so I take the time every day to read those. And I think post-stroke, I have more time. So when you ask, how has it changed? Pre-stroke, I prayed every night before bed, and I prayed every night with Luke growing up. And I always prayed, and I would pray throughout the day. But I didn't take the time to read devotionals or read my Bible. Usually I only read my Bible or devotionals when I'm going through a hard time in life. Like I mentioned in the book, when I was going through a divorce, my first marriage ended in divorce, and it was a horrible divorce, and I read the Bible a lot. So historically, as far as my faith goes, I think I take the time to only read my devotionals and read the Bible daily when I'm going through difficult things, which it always helps me, but my faith has always been there.
Yeah. So, but now that you do have the time, it's not just when you necessarily need things. Now it's a constant
Now
walk.
it's a daily habit. Yeah.
And I think it's a habit It's a great habit.
It's
a habit that I have time to.
Yes.
It's a daily thing for me, and actually I can tell the days whenever I don't.
Yes, I'm
follow
same,
through
and
with
I
that.
do it now religiously, no pun intended. I mean, I'm very, very rigid with that. I even say to Ray, I got to do my prayers. I do it every morning with my coffee. I carve out that time intentionally now, whereas before the stroke, I was so busy getting up and driving an hour to Austin to go to the office that before I worked from home, I would drive to Austin to the office, which is an hour commute. So I was always up and at 'em and out the door. And I didn't really take the time. When things were going well, I didn't really take the time to sit and read my devotionals. But I love that time so much, and I'm so grateful for it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's something that happens with everybody. You're always, it's like, well, things are going bad, so I guess I need to start. I need to get
the
on my
only
hands.
book that has all the answers, in my opinion.
But I think everyone would benefit, busy or not, to take that extra time on
For
a daily
sure.
basis.
Yeah, I know. It's just like meditation and exercise. It's taking that, it's building those habits.
When I can see during that time, I still have blood pressure issues and spikes here and there. Mostly, like I was telling Randy earlier, is on my diastolic side. But I pay attention to my heart rate a lot more than I ever did before.
Oh.
And during that time in the mornings, even though I do have coffee, I can sit there and watch my heart rate go down. And just everything slows down for a minute.
Yeah.
Prayer and meditation is huge
It's
for
so
me.
huge. Yeah.
And I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I never had high blood pressure. It's another weird thing. I mean,
I didn't either.
I never had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I was not overweight. I'm now more overweight than I was at the time of the stroke.
Because
That's how they
takes a
found
lot more
out.
to
That's
move.
how they found out it was caused by birth control pill, because they couldn't figure out how such a health. My husband's like, she works out on a rower every day. How could she have a stroke?
Right.
And I was 47. I know the only medication I took was a low dose birth control pill.
Yeah, and I
So
do
they
want to
ran-
go over that, but before you do that,
Oh, okay.
before you go there, I did want to go over, because we did just mention the book one more time, and I have that on here. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
very important where you're about to go.
Yeah.
But before we do, so on the book, I mean, how did that even come about? So, I mean, I would kind of like to write a book now, but I just don't know if
Yeah.
I have the time to dedicate, and I'm kind of on another mission now.
Yeah.
With the podcast. But how did that come about?
I didn't really want to write a book, but when I was getting therapy, when I came home, we had a company called Rehab Without Walls coming to the home to give me therapy.
I've heard great things.
Yeah,
about
Rehab
them.
Without Walls is great, and they specialize in brain injury and spinal cord injuries. So they're not technically like neurotherapists, but they're like brain injury certified. So they're the closest thing to neurotherapy.
Yeah.
And they would come to my house and treat me for PT, OT, and speech. And at that time, at the end of 21 and into 22, they were coming to my house, probably 2 to 3 times a week. And the OT and the speech therapist specifically, we would always be talking in our set, because I'm a really talkative, outgoing person. And so we would be talking during our sessions. And they started saying, you should write a book. And I was like, I don't want to write a book. I'm like, that is so cliche that I almost died and then go write a book. I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I'm a very private person. What am I going to write about? They're like, you need to share your story. You need to share your story. And I was like, that is crazy. I'm like, I'm not going to write a book. And they just kept insisting, and they kept saying it every time they were with me. They're like, you, Heather, of all people, need to write a book because you have such a testimony and so many powerful things to say. You need to write a book. And I was like, that is crazy. I'm not going to write a book. And they just kept pressing and kept pressing and kept pressing.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah. And then finally I was like, they apparently thought I was interesting like you. And that's so nice when people think, cause I'm like, I didn't think I was that interesting. I was just living life. But I'm not, they thought I was so interesting. And they're like, you of all people has to write a book, and you love to talk and you love to share, which I do. So finally I agreed. I think it was in 23. It was like Christmas of 22. Finally I was like, okay. When I told Randy, I'm like, I need a new computer. So for Christmas that year, he bought me this little tablet. And then in January of 23, when they all went back to work and school, I finally was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. And I remember the first day I sat down at the computer, I called Randy. And I was like, I don't know I can't even think. And I was very depressed. I was still depressed. Because I went through a lot of depression in the beginning.
Right.
I wasn't the
you're
same
only
Heather.
2 years.
Yeah, it was only
post-stroke
it was like approaching the 2 year. It was like this time of year back then. So I was approaching the 2 year anniversary. I was very, very, very depressed. because I was not the same as I was before. I mean, I was still kind of the same in some respects, but I didn't have the physicality to match how I was before. I wasn't able to just get up and go drive the car and go to work and go do everything. So I called Randy and I was like, what am I going to write about? I can't do this. I can't even think. And he's like, well, just share your story like they said. And Randy is very encouraging and very loving of me. So he's like, you have a lot of good stories in your life to share. He's like, just share your story. Just write about your life. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? And I'm thinking. And so that's why I thought of my mom having me. I'm like, okay, I'll just go back to my birth. And that's how I'll start. And that was kind of what got my brain in the mode of, okay, I'll write about my life because I don't know what else to write about. I can't think straight. I have massive brain damage. So I just wrote about my life.
Right. Yeah, well, it's cool. And I got to know you a lot better through reading the book. And I would love to kind of go over that stuff. But I recommend everybody go and get the book.
Thank you.
And hear about all the cool things you've done. You know, I know for you lived through it. And you know, too. I mean, there was some special things in there. I mean, the parts in Hollywood and California and the people
and
that
that
you
just all
met,
just fell in my lap. That's the angels around me, my mom said. Because I didn't ever go.
I don't want to give it away because I really want people to go check out the book. I had
a lot of cool jobs, a lot of really cool jobs that just happened. I mean, literally, I'm either the most blessed person alive or the lucky. People always would say I'm lucky. Even Randy would always say that's just that Flanigan.
I always
luck.
say it's better to be lucky than good. So,
yeah.
You know,
I think it's God's blessing really over my life personally, again, because of my faith, but people always have told me, you are so lucky. It's like people used to, even in my 20s, be like, I'm going to take you to Vegas with me. But I'm just blessed.
Well, when you're a believer, you take luck and coincidence and you throw that in the waste bin because it's, there's a reason.
Yeah,
and
it's like God just picks me up. And I mean, I couldn't have all those jobs. It's like I just landed there. And to me, it wasn't impressive at all. I was just needing a job to pay my rent. And so.
Well, and being a survivor of the type of stroke that you have is a huge testament to his grace.
Yes.
And that there was a reason for you to still be here to share that and for us to be here today visiting. So there's somebody that needs to hear your story and there's a reason why you were spared.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, no, because it really, by medical records, and if you look at the MRI, I mean, you see the MRI, you're like, she should have died, for sure, she should have died.
Right. Yeah, and you're doing great, and so honored to have you here with me today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
So I think right now is a good time. We kind of touched on it a minute ago. I know that both of us are pretty passionate about this. Would be advocacy, being a self-advocate for yourself and health, and realizing that even though doctors, for the most part, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have a want and they do care about your health. They did take an oath to help you and help others, but they get busy too. And they're under a lot of stress. Things are changing quickly, and there's just no way to keep up. But there are some things that I believe through my journey so far that they could be and should be doing, and that is being a little more aware of the medications that they're giving out.
Yes.
And doing a little more background study instead of just, I'm going to prescribe this because this worked for 100 other people.
Right.
Instead of saying, okay, well, let me make sure that this person's body is going to handle this medication.
Yeah, for sure.
So in your case, kind of what caused you, that's where we're going, is what caused your stroke and the medications that you were
They couldn't
on.
figure I wasn't on any medication, but they ran hundreds of tests and blood tests and sent the blood to a hematologist, which is a blood specialist, as most people may not know. I had never heard of a hematologist before, but
Me neither till I had the
that's
stroke.
what they do, yeah. So they sent my blood to the hematologist, and they ran hundreds of tests, and I met with the hematologist after, and he said, well, you have perfect blood. He's like, what caused that blood clot is estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on a low-dose birth control pill.
Right, which
and
you
they-
didn't call that medicine. I call that
Yeah,
medicine.
yeah,
still,
it
but-
is a prescribed medication. And then they dug deeper, and they found that I had what's called a PFO in my heart that I never knew I had. And I'm like, how did I live 47 years, and especially being cardio queen that would get my heart rate up to like 173 beats per minute on the rower and working out? How did I never ever know that I had a PFO in my heart?
Right.
And the cardiologist said, well, it's common for people who have them to never know they have it until something happens. I said, well, that is crazy, and they should be testing people for that before they put them on the birth control pill.
Right.
Because what they found was that me being on the birth control pill is what caused the blood clot. and then having the PFO, which PFO stands for patent foramen ovale. And I didn't know what it was. I had to Google it. I mean, the doctor explained it, but I didn't really retain it. But Google explains it very well. But it's called patent foramen ovale. And it's basically a flap in the heart. So the estrogen caused the blood clot, which estrogen is known to cause blood clots. And there are products and things that can, even drinking wine can increase your estrogen. And of course, there's a lot of knowledge about that in like the cancer community, because there's some cancers that are caused by that.
Hormone therapies in general.
Hormone therapy, yes, cause blood clotting.
That's what they felt like mine was caused by as well on the TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy.
Yes.
So, right there with you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't
so
mean
the
to interrupt you,
estrogen
but-
caused the blood clot, and then having the PFO in my heart, unfortunately, was the pathway for the blood clot to get to the brain. So that's what they found was the cause of the stroke. I had never had high blood pressure, never had high cholesterol. I was not overweight. And it was just the birth control pill that caused the blood clot, and the PFO was the path for the blood clot to get there. And it's funny because even when I got on the pill when I was 40 or 41, when Randy and I started dating, because Randy and I are a second marriage, both divorced, single parents when we were dating. And I went to and we had talked about, and I would have been open to having kids, but he's like, I don't want to have any more kids. He's like, oh, we've got enough 3 boys between us. He's like, I don't want any more. I just want to be with you. But we were dating and, in love. So me being the independent, proactive female that I am, I talked to my doctor. I said, well, I'm dating this guy, because I hadn't even gone on a date in 8 years since my divorce. And I said, I'm dating this guy, and I need to think about contraception, because he doesn't want to have children, and I don't want to have children with someone who doesn't want to have children. So I need to be proactive and take care of myself. And I really love him, and I want to continue dating him. And so I don't want to do it. I need to protect that and make sure. So she's like, well, you could take a pill. And I'm like, well, what about all the stuff they say about the birth control pill? She's like, well, you have nothing to worry about because you're so healthy. Famous last word. I mean, she was never to know that I had a PFO in my heart, because I didn't even drink I didn't even drink soda. I mean, I literally was the epitome of health. So, I mean, a health nut.
Yeah, I think that's
she
more
looked at me-
common than people know as far as the health.
Yeah, so when you talk about doctors, and I had asked her, because I said, I didn't even know what was bad about the birth control pill, but I had heard so many, even my own mother always said, don't take the birth control, all through my 20s and 30s, and it was, don't take the pill, it's so bad, it's so bad. I'm like, well, what's bad about it? So I asked the doctor when she was prescribing it, and we were having this conversation, and I said, what about all the stuff they say about the pill? She's like, well, Heather, you're so healthy, you have nothing to worry about. And so I got on it, and I actually loved being on the birth control pill, because it got rid of all my PMS, and I didn't have a period for like 6 years. I'm like, this is awesome. And so I loved being on it, and I didn't feel bad. I felt great. And I was on it for 6 years, totally fine, no health issue, and then till the night of the stroke.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then as soon as they told us that the birth control pill, when I was in the hospital, that's when I stopped taking the pill, never took it again. And now I tell women all the time, I see young girls, older women, I just tell, don't even risk it. Don't take hormone replacement. It's just not even worth it. Because you don't know, if you have a PFO, you don't know. And apparently 25% of the population has a PFO and doesn't know they have it. We're all born with it, but in 75% of people, it closes as you grow. But in 25% of the population, it never closes, and they never know.
Right.
And so I really think that doctors should encourage women to get tested for things. And like my friend Nicole, who had a blood clotting disorder, who you met with,
type 2.
they should, before they put a woman on the birth control pill, they should test her blood and test her heart. And hopefully now, going forward, that will happen. Because I'm certainly not the only person who had a stroke because of birth control pill. I know there's other women out there that have had it.
I went through therapy with some younger women that aged between 18 and 30 that suffered, went through a stroke because of birth
that.
control.
Right, yeah.
And you want to talk about just like, to me, it's just, it's a shame and it's frustrating. Honestly,
It
if
is,
you're
'cause
going
if I had
to
known-
prescribe that type of medication, okay, sure, put it back on the patient and say they should go get some more testing. But as a doctor, I feel like the doctor to prescribe that should be doing that testing or required to do that testing. If they're not,
I
I
agree.
understand. And insurance should pay for that.
Yes.
And I think that's where the problem probably lies. And we could probably...
Yeah, because insurance had to pay a lot more for me to have my skull flap removed than if they had just paid for a little test for me to get like transesophageal echocardiogram to see if you have a PFO.
Yeah,
it's
but
called
I
a
think
TE.
that goes
it's
back
like a
with
bubble test.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the same thing that I'm always preaching about, and I just feel like, we're one of the most advanced countries on the planet, and we
Yes.
have the worst health. So,
It's a
I don't know
shame.
if they want us to get better.
Yeah.
I don't, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
rabbit
no,
hole.
that's
Probably
what
don't go down.
my
But
husband kind of feels like that in some ways it's more expensive and a drain on like speaking to insurance. And I've been in the insurance business for 20 years.
right.
And I'm very knowledgeable about insurance, but it's more of a drain on the healthcare system and financially for people to be in therapy for years. And I mean, I've been in therapy consistently for 4.5 years and I still need therapy. So I think that's more of a financial drain than just doing a quick bubble test before you put a woman on a birth control pill. And if someone had educated me and said, well, or had known even that I had the PFO, I would have never taken it, because who would want to go through what I've been through? I mean, and what I'm still going through.
Well, I think that's why we're speaking today, is so that people, to get that word out. I mean, I don't have a huge platform. I hope that it is going to get greater. We do have the nonprofit. I started that for the same reason. More on the therapy end is where that started, because it is so expensive.
Yeah.
And insurance companies typically don't cover.
Right, and a lot of people get cut off before they're done.
That's right. Or they hit that year. Right now is the perfect time to say they're hitting that year mark, where right now we got to meet deductibles again before we go back. So you got
Right.
somebody that's in a critical part of their recovery journey, and therapists are making great headway with them,
Right.
especially in the neuro world.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're like, well, I can't do any therapy right now. I got a friend that just texted me this morning, told me that they switched insurances, and he's hoping he's going to be, because he was doing, I think he's doing without walls as well.
Yeah, rehab without wall.
But that's why I started this.
It's
I mean,
really
it
good that
is.
you did. Yeah, hopefully
Is
we
that-
can. And I joke with people. I said, well, I can talk. And I think that's why I go, because God knows I can talk. I was in the hallway all of 3rd and 4th grade with my nose against the wall because I didn't shut up in class. So I'm like, God knew I could talk. And so maybe that's why he saved me, so that.
Well, you didn't know
tell it.
anything about this before that,
Right,
right? Or
no.
spend any time? No. Educate yourself in
Yes.
hopes to help others,
Yes.
and also, to inform yourself of what's going on. But I don't think we would ever wish this. I say it all the time. On our worst enemy, I wouldn't say, hey, a stroke's a fun thing to go do.
Yeah,
Don't
no,
you go
it's
that?
the worst thing ever, and it's not talked about enough. Because in my personal opinion, I've never had cancer, and hopefully never have to go through that. Because I know cancer is an awful, awful beast. But I tell people in a naive way, a stroke is worse than any other chronic health condition out there, because stroke affects your brain, and anything that's going to affect the mind and how you think and how you feel and how you do things is obviously worse.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's not talked about enough.
No, and you're forced to you are forced to accept what you're dealt with the stroke. And that's different for every single person. So it's not talked about. The spotlight's on a lot of other issues that are equally important. I'm not saying that they don't deserve the spotlight they get, but stroke doesn't get much spotlight. And
Right.
then,
It's
or
not.
neurological conditions in general. There's a bunch of different ones out there right now that they're still trying to figure out. There's a lot of genetic disorders that they're discovering now, and this is kind of at some point, and even at any point, depending on your stroke. For me, can almost be an invisible disease or invisible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because a lot of
impairment.
people don't know what happened to you when they see you, depending. Because, again, strokes. I mean, with me, obviously, you can see I have physical deficits.
I think you do well. Though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I've had all kinds of comments over the years. Like when we go to the airport, even TSA said, "What do you have Bell's palsy? What do you have?" I'm like, "No, I had a massive stroke where they removed my skull for 3 months."
It's
and then
just
she's like,
that-
"What?"
And it's just an unknown thing. So hopefully we can shine some spotlight on it, and or some light on that subject, and
Right.
get more people. It's also kind of a private thing, It has ability to take a whole lot away from you.
Yes. For sure.
And it does. If you allow it, it can take a lot away from you. And one of those things that it does is kind of your, it's not the word I want to use, the only word that comes to mind right now is your mojo. And just
Yes,
like
it affects people's motivation and their gumption.
Yeah, and just the way that you see yourself is different. And wanting to be on camera or wanting to go out and get out in the world. A lot of times, I've got a lot of friends that I've wanted to come on, tell their story, and they're like, I'm not doing that.
Right,
I'm not
right.
ready. And
They're
usually, I get that. I understand, but it's so important. I mean, for people, first of all, to understand that there are deficits and there are people that are going through things that need help too.
Right.
And, turning a blind eye to it's really easy whenever you don't see it and it's not right in your face.
Right, right.
And it's right in your face. It's a little bit different. And I was telling Randy earlier, that's kind of a big deal for me this year. I'm hoping I'm going to have more caretakers on because I feel like they go through everything that we go through in a different level. And actually, I think in some ways it's even harder because the way we feel helpless, take that and then put that into somebody else's hand that loves us and say, okay, well, I need you to help me, but you can't really help me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Well, and it's like a fine line because you need help, but you also need to learn to do it on your own. And so it's like in my situation, when I have someone who is amazing and overly helpful like Randy is, which is why I call him St. Roy Randall, because he really is. I mean, he always is like right there to help if I ever need the help. And I have become now reliant on that. And that's not a good thing necessarily because it's also scary and he needs that support too. And before we were such equal partners, which is why we even came to, we were two divorced single parents. We could not have been any more of an equal partnership. I mean, he taught me how to be an equal partnership. And so he had a wife that matched him on every level to now this person who couldn't even sit up or swallow. And so over the years and that was very hard in the beginning for both of us because for me, who was this tough, ballsy woman that didn't know how to ask for help, was very, very, we've had a lot of fights and a lot of frustrating moments because there's been times where I didn't know how to get the help, to receive his help, or I've been mad at him. But then it's over the years, it's become now where I'm dependent on the help. So it's like you have to kind of learn, and we're still navigating that because now I'm at a point where I'm approaching the 5-year anniversary where for the most part, I'm fully independent. But I had to learn that really last year in year 4, started kind of breaking away and being more independent and less dependent. But then also, how does that impact your marriage? So it's a huge burden for the caregiver and the survivor, and because usually the caregiver is a spouse, and it totally changes the complete dynamic of your relationship.
And divorce rates are pretty high, actually.
Yeah, a lot of spouses just leave, because they're like, I can't do this, and that's a shame. That shouldn't be that way because when you take those marriage vows, it's for life.
Yeah, and I think the marriages, yours and mine both, that have survived, it's just another testament to God's grace.
It is.
And that we're challenged with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I feel like, and when you say that testament to God's grace, I have learned, and I feel kind of more evolved now on a whole new level, that this is what God calls us to do. This is what life is. Life is about learning and growing together.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing like being cracked open and having everything taken
And
from you to
suffering
start,
together.
then to start over again and learn everything like a child. So it's you never know it's needed, but it's so needed. And it has helped to grow our marriage. It's helped to grow me as a human. It helped to grow him as a human. It's in many ways, it's part of our evolving.
Right.
It's such a hugely important. It is really the grace of God, and it's really God's intention, I think, for us.
Mm-hmm. It does. We're getting close to wrapping it up, but I'm kind of getting into a part I'm pretty passionate about as well. People always want to say, well, why would God let this happen to me? That's a whole.
There's a lot of people who, especially people who question their faith, who say that. Why does God let these bad things happen?
I say, well, why not you? I mean, somebody said that to me. I was like, well, why not you? I mean, what makes any particular person special enough that they're not going to suffer or go through these things.
Right, we all suffer. It's just at different levels.
It's the experience of life. I mean, there's a lot of suffering in different levels, and
which is really what I hope the message in my book and the message of my own life portray. Which is why I wrote about my whole story, and I think why my therapy, because even having a massive stroke, it's not the worst thing I've been through in my life, and I think that we all go through horrible, whether you go through a divorce, a job loss, loss of a child, loss of a spouse, health issues on your own, no matter what we go through in life, we all are here. Life is suffering, whether it's a massive stroke or anything. And the whole purpose of it is to get through it.
Yeah, and
learn.
To
grow from it. You either grow from it or you crumble from it.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at eternity, we want to grow as much as we can.
We want to grow. That's what we're here. That's what God wants us here for, is to grow. You're here to grow. And this is why it says so many times, even in the Bible, that our ways are not his ways, are not our ways. And we have to learn to think beyond our circumstances. Right. And which is so much about mindset, which I'm huge on. And my dad really instilled in me.
I always ask everybody, so then I'm going to ask you. And I think we were just kind of talking about it. What are some words of wisdom you could give to people? And not just strictly concerning stroke, just in general.
Just in general, and mindset. Mindset is everything. That's what I'm really big on, and I think that's what's gotten me through the stroke and what's gotten me through really everything in my life. You have to control your mind or it will control you. And it's about discipline, and it's about being mentally tough and grit. You have to really kind of callous your mind while also still maintaining that vulnerability and realizing that you're human. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that remember that when you're feeling a certain way and you're feeling like that lack of motivation, or you're feeling like down, or you have to realize that is your brain keeping you down, because our brain is designed to keep us safe. And so your brain wants you to do, the brain is actually very lazy and just wants you to do nothing. So you have to fight that. And that's really what mindset is. And the people who get through all the stuff in life, I mean, you can look at all the great people, the motivational speakers, and they all talk about this same kind of thing, even if it's not faith-based. It's about being gritty and being tough-minded, being disciplined. Just like when you lift a weight, it doesn't feel good to lift a weight repeatedly, but you know it's growing that muscle and it's making you stronger. And it's the same thing with our mind. Like, no one wants to get out of the bed in the morning when it's 30 degrees outside and go to the gym, but once you're out of that bed and you get going, you're going to feel so much better for doing it. And so I think my biggest takeaway would be just fight your brain every day. Watch your mindset, control your mind, discipline your mind, and control your thoughts. Otherwise, they will control you. And so you have to control your mindset. It's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming over
Thank
today.
you, Trent. I'm so glad to be
story.
here. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure we probably, like I said, there's probably stuff we missed. I want to, one more time, plug the book, Stroke of Love. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was
I'm glad
really
you did.
cool stories. And I suggest everybody go and get the book and hear the rest of your story that we didn't get to.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And I will put a link
and
down.
on Audible, because I wanted to make sure it was an audiobook.
Yeah, that's huge too. I mean, that's another thing.
I was so frustrated that I couldn't
read.
hold the book, and so audiobook for stroke survivors is so nice to have. So it's on Audible too.
I'll get those links from you, and I have these for this already, and we'll share that as well.
Yeah,
so,
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
I'll do my best one day at a time on the broken road, on a broken road.